Welcome to the Outbound Edge, a practical, straight-talking podcast for business leaders, IT decision makers, where we're going to look behind the slideware into how modern organisations make technology work, from the service desk to the boardroom. Outbound specialists and trusted partners will unpack real-world challenges without the jargon or hype. I'm Keith Bucknell, co-founder and Chief Information Technology Officer here at Outbound. In this series, I'm joined by leaders, vendors, guests, practitioners and innovators who are redefining how we approach IT, risk, service, and cutting through that noise to focus on what really delivers value. If you're responsible for technology, security or digital change, you're in the right place. So let's get into today's conversation. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the Outbound Edge podcast series. This episode we're covering compliance as a business enabler, not just a tick box exercise. And today we're joined by Stephen, who is actually Outbound's Chief Information Security Officer. Hi Stephen, welcome.
Okay.
So Stephen, give me a bit of background about yourself, how long you've been at Outbound, why you joined Outbound first, please.
Sure. Well, I've been in information security, cybersecurity for quite a long while now. So I would say probably getting on for 25 years,
Nice.
believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, 25 years. It's gone very quick, I have to say.
Got more hair than me.
I'm not too sure, but yeah. I've still got mine, which is good, which is surprising being in this game, to be fair. So yeah, a little bit about me. I've, like I say, been in 25 years. I've worked in private sector as well as public sector. I've worked in consultancy roles as well as internal roles, such as I'm doing for Outbound.
Yep.
And yeah, I think with us, the stars aligned really, didn't they? I was at right place, right time.
Yeah,
the stars aligned.
we'd planned it more for this year, but as
Yeah.
you know, as these things, I think everything happens for a reason. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I think it was. So I know we say compliance and compliance as a business enabler, but really that's broad, isn't it? It's risk management, it's information security, it's compliance. I know there's risk and audit and compliance on the business side of things, but what does it mean to you?
Compliance means to me something of value, and I think that's what's generally lost to a lot of people. And I think a lot of sort of CEOs and execs, they don't understand that it's a value add. And I always say compliance is a business enabler, and that's certainly true for me. I think it is. It's a massive business enabler, and I think the key thing for security professionals like myself is to convey that back to sort of board level, and sort of embed that sort of way of thinking, that ethos that actually, compliance is a business enabler, and it protects you. It gives a good security wrap around what you're doing, and it gives a level of trust and accountability. Certainly externally looking in from clients that are looking for a trusted partner to do some work with. So I think for me, it's that compliance is a business enabler. And I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, I think, as well, because every company works on data. So everybody's got something sensitive. Everybody works with computers, laptops, mobile phones, you name it, we've got it. And obviously...
Do you think the board and the execs understand, information security, compliance, risk management? Do you think they see it as an enabler or a blocker?
It's a really interesting question, because I've seen more of people saying it's a blocker. So there's a lot of execs, CEOs, etc. And for example, to give you an example of a situation that I was in, I was invited into a boardroom, and the CEO exec was there for the company, and we went round the table, did introductions, and when it came to me, and I said, "Hi, I'm Stephen Hurren. I'm a security professional," and etc. Introduced myself and did a little spiel, and the CEO sort of leaned in and he said, "You're the guy here around the table, and you're here to tell me I can't do what I want to do."
Interesting.
So I said to him, I said, no. I said, I'm here to tell you can do what you want to do, but just do it in a secure manner.
Yeah.
And then you kind of saw the light bulb go on. Because it is a case of, security is seen as a hurdle. It always has been in my career of, like I said, 25 years.
Yep.
It's always seen as a hurdle that people need to jump over, or just a tick box exercise that they want to get through. And there's some CEOs, I think as time has gone on, and I think there's much more press with data leaks, all those kind of things. I think CEOs are beginning to see that, certainly in the papers and the journals that they may read, and it's getting to boardroom. So the shift is coming. Okay. So the tide is generally sort of turning and changing.
And that NCS paper helped late last year of kind of demanding around cyber essentials and your supply chain. So
definitely, and I think that's why they did it, because they can foresee the problem is, and you have to lead from the top. That's really important with security. You sort of lead from the top, because your employees are looking for you for that sort of leadership role. And if the voice is coming from the top, not the bottom up, and then obviously you're winning half the battle with that.
Okay, and surely this is just focused at big companies, enterprise, public sector, or should it be every company of any size?
Yeah, absolutely. It should be every company of every size. I mean, obviously, it's aggregation of data. So if you're a big global company, you've got aggregation of data. So you've got a bigger risk. You've got a bigger risk surface, an attack surface, than you would if you're, say, a hairdresser, for example, or you're an estate agent.
Yep.
You may have a smaller footprint. You've got less staff. You've got less equipment. But that's not to say that the information you've got is not of value to the attackers. Okay. So I think and again, if you want to stay in business, this is the sort of thing you need to be thinking about, because all it takes is one breach and you've lost, customer confidence. You've got downtime as well that you need to deal with. So I think and again, IASME and Cyber Essentials, that is for small to medium-sized enterprises, is really important, is really key. So the bigger enterprises, normally I would say, certainly in my experience, they've got security covered because they've got the bandwidth and they've got the pot of gold that they can give a security person like myself, and they can
dedicated teams, maybe
dedicated teams, exactly. And it's the SMEs that don't really have that bandwidth and that capacity. And again, we can talk about sort of Cyber Essentials and where it sits within the compliance sort of structure, because the big industries might want to do 27001 because they've got the bandwidth, they've got the people and the boots on the ground to do that, and they've got the ability, where small to medium-sized enterprises don't, and that's exactly when Cyber Essentials comes in, and that's the market that it's kind of aimed at.
And what we've seen, obviously, like some of our support services, we include Cyber Essentials in there because we're trying to be that security first company, trying to align ourselves to those standards plus the Centre of Internet Security. But we have seen customers, different sizes, kind of going, well, I don't need it. I don't want it. It's a self-certified questionnaire, at least for Cyber Essentials rather than Plus. But so if we just summed up CE Plus, kind of how would you describe it to a customer?
It's an entry level. I would say it's a baseline level, and I think it's important. The message I would get across is it's the 5 essentials that you should be doing within cybersecurity. That's kind of patch management, antivirus, it's secure configuration, it's access control. So it's all those kind of things that you should be doing. It's the basic things. And that's where Cyber Essentials was kind of born from. That's where it came from. It was came from the NCSC. They recognised that most of the breaches that they were seeing, if those organisations did those 5 basic things correctly, and they implemented those, and then you're a really good way to becoming secure and making sure those bad guys are kept out, and you've got that that sort of security wrap around your organisation. I know there is a bit of a thing around it's a self-licking lollipop, and
Yep.
I've heard that many times.
Love
It's
that
just
analogy.
it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a self-attestation. You can lie, you can just put what you want on it, but I mean, if you're doing that, you're just doing yourself a disservice, really. If you do that and you lie about those kind of things. However, I would say I've seen Cyber Essentials and been a Cyber Essentials assessor myself, and I've seen it through the years and how it's developed. And I think because of the nature of technology and how it's moved on and time has moved on, threats have moved on, they've adapted Cyber Essentials now. So even though it is that self-attestation, the auditors do go through that with a fine-tooth comb.
Yep.
And they will question you on answers, certainly if they don't marry up throughout the questionnaire. And Cyber Essentials, obviously, there's no getting away with that. You can't, lie your way through that if you're so inclined to do that, because it is an auditor, is a boots on the ground. They'll physically come into your office and they'll plug into your network and they'll scan your network, or they will do the remote sort of service. So you can't get away with that as much. So there is absolute value, and I think it also demonstrates value from the point of view that you do have those certificates, you do have those badges that you can put on your website. So if somebody's wanting to do business with you, you can actually prove then that you've been through those processes.
We are seeing a lot now with customers, whether they're winning tenders, whether their customers have demanded it, that they've got CE and or CE plus as well. So I think there is a shift happening. Interestingly, from episode 1 was, I imagine not this year, but next year they probably will start focusing on AI and AI tools, especially with the new ISO standard come out. So it's an annual thing, annual accreditation.
Yeah, so it is an annual certification. So you apply, you go through the self-attestation, and hopefully you pass. And once you've passed, you've got 3 months then to take Cyber Essentials Plus, if that's what you want to do, which is more of that technical assessment.
Yep.
And it renews every year. So it's not a sort of a one event and a one-time thing that you do. You get your certificate, you walk away, you forget about it. It does come around. It comes around quite quick as well, which is why people like myself. Next month. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what I always recommend is that you have, rather than you wait to the audit date, is you plan a month out, 2 months out at least, I would say, to begin to ready yourself for that particular audit, to make sure that you're ready to submit it in time, because time ticks away. And if they do come back and you've got things that you need to update, say your OS is out of date or you've got certain systems, you need to make sure that you're going to update those and have the bandwidth to do that before you then resubmit for the second time.
Got you. Okay. And what's beyond Cyber Essentials? Do we stop there, or?
No. I mean, you can if you wish. It really depends on sort of your appetite and how you want to sort of progress through your cybersecurity journey, because it is a through life experience.
Not a set and forget.
Not a set and forget.
Okay.
No, not a set and forget. I'm sure there's many people that would wish it was just a set and forget. We just do it, and we just do it once, and that's it. And then security kind of go away, and they never bother anybody again.
Yep.
But that's unfortunately not the case, and kind of rightly so that's not the case. So Cyber Essentials is, like I said, the baseline, and if you want to progress from there, the next step from that would be 27001. So if you wanted to progress, you can go to ISO 27001, which is the international standard for information security. And it's internationally recognised. Cyber Essentials, not so much. That's pretty much UK-centric.
Yep. Okay.
Where ISO, that's globally acceptable. Everybody understands ISO 27001.
Not NIST or NIS or SOC or.
You may do. I mean, SOC is obviously more aimed at the American market. Although, if you're a company in the UK that does, global trade, you may get asked for SOC, which is really quite different, I would say, to certainly to Cyber Essentials and 27001. Same ethos, I would say, because security no matter what the flavour of the different kind of standards and regulations that you have out there, they're all talking the same language. They're all have the same commonality between them. So you can kind of map between those standards, and you've got that same language between all of those. So yep, I would say Cyber Essentials is your sort of your baseline. That's your entry level certificate. And if you then want to go further than that, and you want to progress further than that, I would say ISO 27001.
Okay,
for sure.
And I guess coming back to it, it's not just a tick box exercise. So how would we advise customers, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, on this is the path they should take and here's the reasons why? How would we kind of go about, at least at the exec board, senior management level, to show them that's what they need, or not that's what they need, because that's probably more of a selling thing, but more, how would we create that roadmap or explain to them that's why they need something like this? What would be your couple of hints and tips?
Yeah, I think it's important to, first of all, is understand the business and what they want to achieve, what their business goals are and what their aims are.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all.
No. Again, if you try and put ISO 27001 in, like I said, is like a 5-person estate agent, that's really not going to happen. Certainly, if you've not got a dedicated cyber professional, if you've got somebody in there that's double hatting and they're trying to do it part time, you're just gonna burn them out. It's really sort of not going to happen. So I'd say you really kind of have to go in, understand the business, their drivers, their clientele, and the client base that they've got, and because there could be requirements upon them from their clients or their client base, or a market they wish to break into that will require them to have Cyber Essentials or even 27001 to get through that, and it's being asked for more and more as well. So the supply chain risk is a big thing, and there's more emphasis on that as we go on. So, and especially when we've got cloud as well, because before, back in my old days of when I first started out, you go into the office and there's a server room and there's an IT team, and literally everything, you wanted a new bit of software or something, you'd have to put a ticket in, IT would come along with a disk, they'd put the disk in, they'd load it up and stuff like that. When
even
now
floppy disks.
Even floppy disks, yes, I know, we're both old enough to remember floppy disks.
I think I cut my teeth on NT4 and Exchange 5
right.
at the time, so...
Right, so,
So I guess that's an interesting point. So, I'm in Google Workspace or I'm in Microsoft 365. Surely they take care of the compliance. I don't need to worry.
They do, to a point. So, say Amazon Web Services, if you're using sort of those guys, they will have a lot of these security assurances that you wish to see. So you could look at them and say, okay, can you give me your security assurances? They may give you a raft of different certificates and certifications. They may point you to a trust center. There's a lot of companies that have a dedicated web page, which is a trust center, and you can sign an NDA and you can get all sort of documentation from them, like an information security policy, or if they've got ISO 27001, their statement of applicability, so you can go through and see what controls they've implemented and they haven't implemented. So I think you still need to do your own due diligence kind of on them to satisfy. And I think as well, it's the configuration, certainly for Amazon Web Services. Some things, if you use those services, they're not automatically set up with security first.
No.
So you need to configure your instance, say, of Amazon Web Services to make sure that it meets your information security policy.
I think some of them have the shared responsibility matrix or model, which is we provide. I call it food and water, but we provide the tin, but you're still responsible. For how you configure it and how you use it. Yeah,
and that's very big with PCI DSS, which is the payment card security sort of standards as well. So it's mandatory for a lot of those merchants that they have exactly that, a responsibilities matrix. So everybody knows within that standard, the PCI sort of standard, who's doing what and who's actually responsible for what. So you've got clear lines and distinctions and roles as well. So I think that's important to look at as well.
Interesting, actually, because I got a couple of stats here. So one of the stats was 73% of businesses say fixing compliance challenges is now a prerequisite for them to be able to be confident to grow and expand. Another one was only 12% of a survey and a list stated reducing compliance costs as a primary goal, whereas most were prepared to pay more for compliance and security. But again, I guess that comes down to the type of business they are. So a lot of businesses we deal with, they won't have a dedicated CISO, they won't have a dedicated security function. It will be sitting with IT, head of IT, IT manager, IT director, CFO, finance manager, COO, sometimes even the CEO. So, and their focus is obviously their day job. So, I guess how should we help educate them to kind of get that focus of you do need to have a compliance and a security mindset? I guess would be the first question. Then I think the second one is, then how do you overcome IT going, I just want to block everything?
Yeah, it's an interesting one with IT wanting to kind of block everything, because I think IT get a bad rap. A bit like ourselves. I think we get a bad rap. Like I said, you're the guy in the room that's always going to say no, and with IT as well, you're going to just turn around and say, actually, we can't do what we want to do. So I think it's just having that positive mindset and going in with that positive mindset. I mean, there's always going to be those people that say, convince me, and I think those people are always going to be looking to put up an argument. Whatever you do, throw at them. So I think it's just a case of going with a positive mindset and a can-do attitude, because it has been, that old adage of computer says no. We want to do this, computer says no. Computer says no. So again, it goes back to be a business enabler. Enable them to do it, even from the perspective to say, okay, if you want to do this, if you've got the CEO and saying they want to, do X, Y, and Z, and you go, that's fine. You can do that. It's your business. It's your train set. You play with it how you want. That's absolutely fine. However, I'm here to make sure you go into this with your eyes wide open, and you understand the risks and the risk you're going to be taking. If you want to do this, that's absolutely fine. So if you want to open up Facebook to every employee, or you want social media sites to every employee, and allow them to access that from work devices, let's just look at the risks. Let's have a conversation around that and look at the risks to mitigate that. And
how would you do that when they don't have a dedicated person that can do that for them?
I would say, if they don't have a dedicated person, I would say if you can't, you don't want to have that sort of skill set within your team or within the organisation, which is really popular now, which is the virtual Chief Information Security Officer, the vCISO service. That's growing now because.
And what is that?
It's a trusted arm of a business. So rather than having somebody internally do that for you that's dedicated, you can have a vCISO service. So you'll have a dedicated professional at the other end of the line, and they'll be there to guide you through sort of your cyber journey. They can build roadmaps for you. They can do risk assessments for you. They can do business impact assessments. They can do all these really good things, and they can work for you as a trusted partner. And also, they're there on hand. So you can have a call-off contract with them as well. Okay. So you don't have to have them there all the time. So if you're a small organisation, go, well, actually, I don't need a dedicated vCISO because there's too much to that. What you can do, you can just buy chunks of time for those. So you've actually got somebody there. So it gives you that sense of that warm, cosy feeling that if you need to call on a security expert, we can pick up the phone or email Teams, whatever it would be, and they're at the end of the line to give you that advice and give you that warm, cozy feeling and give you a steer in the right direction and make sure you are managing your risks as you should be.
Okay, interesting. And I guess it would be different for each company, type of company, industry, customers and reach. What's the common mistakes to avoid that businesses could avoid, other than obviously calling us and letting us help them? But what have you seen as a common set of themes of these mistakes?
As in businesses make mistakes?
Yeah. So is there a theme? Is it different? Is it, not? I know we keep talking about it's not just a tick box exercise, but are there any pointers that we can give to help people listening to this that might fall in a trap or anything? Without obviously coming and speaking to us. I guess I'm trying to say is there any practical advice we can give people if they don't know where to go, where to start, or they're on a particular journey, CE plus ISO, but they're struggling? So is there, what would you say maybe top 3 or top 5 kind of hints are?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things I would say. The things you kind of need to focus on is you need to kind of understand as well. You can't manage what you don't understand, but you don't have. So one of the things you could do as a good start is by looking at where your critical assets are, and where your critical information is. So you can kind of, I mean, they say security.
I remember we used to call them crown jewels.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly it. And
of course they were in the data center. I could protect them, whereas now they're cloud or wherever.
This is it. Boundary erosion. Is such a big thing. And I would say, I mean, going off on sort of a bit of a tangent, but ransomware. Where I remember, the biggest threat was somebody malicious dropping a USB in the car park, hoping that somebody would then pick it up, put it into their, plug it into their computer and, ingest the virus in that way. Where now, you've got ransomware and you've got that through emails, so it's, clicking links and stuff like that. So
you can still get them, by the way. So I don't know if we should say this, but I follow like Hack5 and a few other ones, and you can get these rubber duckies. I'm going to Zero Trust World in a couple of weeks, and they will do these rubber ducky type of USB scripts that can enumerate certain things. You can even get was thinking about buying one. You can even get an iPhone charging cable, but yet it's wireless. You can connect to it, and it's a keylogger.
Right.
So there's still some really interesting things out there around those tools as well. So I don't think they've gone away. But
no, I mean that was sort of the trade shows. They would always say, when you go to InfoSec for Europe, for example, and you've got members from other countries. Let's put it that way, and they're giving away sort of free USB sticks, as a security professional, you're like, okay, thanks very much, and you're thinking, but do I want to plug this in?
Yeah,
what the hell is on this? If I'm going to plug this in and something happens, and it could be that you plug something in and nothing happens, but not that you see, because it could be something, that could be opening up some back door somewhere that they could come in. Your crown jewels, definitely understand where your crown jewels are, map where they are, and then look at what security layers you're wrapping around those crown jewels as well. One thing I think is important as well is just good risk management, because everything's about risk. I mean, everything's risk based, and certainly what I found interesting in my career is that I can sit in a room with security professionals, and they still can't talk coherently about risk. They still really don't understand risk, and there's a lot of GRC tools on the market, and if you look at some of those GRC tools and you say, okay, well,
the governance risk compliance tools,
risk and compliance tools, and how does it manage risk? How does this tool help me sort of manage the risk? And they still kind of fall down in these areas, and it's really kind of strange, because we're not reinventing the wheel. Risk is has been around since the dawn of time.
And we'll cover this off more in the next episode, but surely tools solve everything. We just plug it in and turn it on. You just plug it in and
turn it on, and there you go. And you just walk away, and every now and again come back in and just make sure it's humming away. I mean, if it was that easy, I'd be out of a job, to be fair.
Very fair.
So but it's not that easy, because it's knowing what to put into these tools and then knowing what actually comes out of the tools as well. So, you put rubbish in, you're going to get rubbish out.
Right. Yep.
So I think it's really important. But risk management and understanding really good risk management and how to manage risk, a risk register, for example. You can go, I've been into companies and they go, yep, we do risk management, that's fine. And I say, okay, can you show me your risk register? And they go, what's a risk register?
Okay.
What's a risk register?
Can't I ask ChatGPT or something?
Well, exactly. Yeah, if you just ask ChatGPT, you put it in there, and it will just give you a lovely little risk register. But I would say,
but it's more the understanding, the managing, the theory. Well, sorry, not the theory. The formula behind it, the proper reasoning, rather than just stick a cross on a 1 to 5 or an XY scale.
Yeah, definitely. Because as an organisation, it's an interesting question is if you go into an organisation and say to them, who are your threat actors? Who is going to be a threat to you? Can you name some of your threat actors? They'll just sort of glaze over and look at you blankly, because they're like, well, I don't know. It's just the bad guys. It's the hackers. Who are they? And then you've got threat influencers, so people that might be influenced by that. So, for example, you have the insider threat. So the insider threat, certainly if you're dealing with really sexy information, if you're in police or military circles, you've got a lot of that information sort of the bad guys will get, and they will try and influence staff members, sort of corrupt them. So the bad guy is the threat actor.
Microsoft does quite a bit with that insider information, but we've always found it's another license, it's another SKU, it's another investment. Sadly, I know some of it's changing with some license changes this year, but it's always been a bit of a struggle to get that to customers. Rather than say actually it probably is one of the biggest threats, but we've always struggled to, I guess, sell the benefit of having the extra license, which gives you the extra protection and features.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd agree it's probably one of the big ones. Anything else you could think of as well?
I think education, I think, is one of the biggest things. So I think sort of staff education, and it's not that yearly event. That's the big thing. And we used to do it. Many years ago, it was just once a year. We throw up some slideshows, presentations and some slideshows, and sort of run through those. And
I remember getting on the bus, going to the DR site that you paid a third party for. You've given them the images and the backups. You're there, nothing works.
Yep.
Nothing's tested. Certain systems don't work. You're waiting there for 2 or 3 hours. Nice buffet. But you're there, and then you need a wash up, and then you forget about it for another 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is and this is obviously what's been found, and there are tools out there now that you can use, third-party sort of products, and what they'll do, they'll sort of send reminders to staff. They'll send sort of little videos with tests at the end to make sure that it's always focused in that the staff's mind, because like you said, within 2 days of walking out of a session, they're completely forgot, and they're sitting there clicking on links and opening attachments, which is, again, like I said, one of the biggest threats that we still face.
Fair point. So we'll dive into risk management, I think, on the next one in a bit more detail, but this episode was about compliance as a business enabler, not a tick box. Any closing thoughts?
I think you've actually just really said it. Don't think of it as a tick box. Don't think of it as just a badge to get. And it's not a one-time event. It is a through life. As long as you're in business, as long as you're processing clients' data as well as your own data, you'll always be at risk. You'll always have that sort of risk. So don't think that once we get Cyber Essentials, it's a tick in the box and we can kind of walk away. All those things that you need to do to achieve Cyber Essentials, you should have. I would say it's always good to have that security professional there, that that somebody's got that sort of years of experience that can give you that advice. And certainly for 27001, there's lots of things you should be doing throughout the year, and you need to roadmap those events, I would say, to make sure that you're still keeping and you're monitoring and you're tracking good security throughout. So when your surveillance visits come up, because certification for ISO 27001 lasts for 3 years.
Okay.
After 3 years, you have to have a complete recertification audit. In between those, you have 2 surveillance audits. So it's not just a case that you can easily get 27001 and somebody comes in and just goes, yeah, there's a certificate. It's a through life, cradle to grave process to make sure that you're keeping embedded in security. And I would say don't rest on your laurels as well, because there's obviously lots of companies out there that think, and then they're focused on the bottom line. It's new product lines or whatever it might be, new clients and bringing revenue in, but don't neglect that what props the company up.
Yep.
And you've got to look after your crown jewels.
Interesting. So I think we might do a follow-up then, blog post or something, or on ISO or 27 at least, and maybe explain what that 3 years entails and what that could do. So that's really grateful. Thanks for joining the next episode around risk management and seeing around corners. But I guess if there's any takeaways, just come and have a chat to us.
Indeed.
Right. Thanks, Stephen, for joining us. Thanks for
Keith.
everyone for listening. I think we do the like and subscribe here, or here, as I've been told. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode.